Hey, listen, man. Look, Charles Robinson, I always tell people, hey, just give me Mike Tomlin press conferences. And like if there's a little bit of a lull, just put on a Mike Tomlin press conference and I'm good to go. Now, that was entertaining. I'm not sure he's entertained by what's happening with his best defensive player, though. You see any scenario in which Pittsburgh continues this high defensive play without T.J. Watt for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks?
I mean, it's going to be extremely difficult. If there's a reason why you're talking about him as the reigning defensive player of the year, and it's not just the fact that he rolled up, massive sack total last year, but he's probably as close as you can get to Aaron Donald. There are maybe 3 or 4 guys in the league defensively where really the scheme is ultimately built around what they can do. And he's one of those guys that they can move him around to help confuse opposing offenses. He's never out of a play. I think if you watch that game, it was terrible to see him go out, particularly after the interception. Like, he's one of these players that if he's not getting involved from a pass rush perspective, to see him jump up, time that, intercept the football, forces fumbles. I mean, he literally does almost everything an edge defender could. So to take him out of the mix, I mean, that's pretty difficult for the Steelers. But that said, I tell people this every season, and this season in particular, Mike Tomlin has a huge hurdle in front of him from a coaching perspective, particularly considering what's going on at the quarterback position. And yet every single season, Mike Tomlin seems to show up, coach the Steelers well. There's a reason why he has no losing record on his resume. And I think if you go back and look at that game, it's another example of, Mike Tomlin and a Steelers defense showing up when people, I think, expected this to be a down year for Pittsburgh.
Now, I know every player in the NFL has the right to get a second, third, fourth opinion if they want to, especially a second opinion from what the team doctor is saying. So I get it for T.J. Watt, but if you're the Steelers, are you discouraging him? I mean, you got this guy signed to a long-term deal, torn pectoral muscle. I'm going to discourage you from trying to go out and play. We need you, but we need you long-term too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets a little dicey when, it's part of the struggle that you see between, teams and players, and it can go in both directions. We often hear fallout from players feeling like, well, maybe the team physicians or the doctors or the trainers push me back too early. This is the flip side of that, where you have players who want to keep themselves on the field. And as you said, will seek second or third medical opinions. And I think when you get onto the third opinion, that's when the team steps in and says, okay, how long are we going to push this before, you finally listen? I think they'll be careful with it. I just, as you said, they know, just like the Rams know with Aaron Donald, just like, let's say, the Browns know with Myles Garrett, the teams are going to handle their superstars, despite the fact that they're paying these guys $20 to $25 million a year, $27 million a year for the best edge defenders now, $30 million a year for the best defensive player in football now. They're going to play it safe because they know the window is open as long as those players are healthy and on the field. And Watt falls into that category where the Steelers ultimately are thinking long-term. They're not going to sacrifice him for a 2022 that in effect is sort of a pivot year for them anyway, not only at the quarterback position, but they have other positions on the field that they're still trying to sort out and figure out where they're going in the future, even defensively.
Mike Tomlin in that great clip talked about a player not urinating down his leg. Did Nathaniel Hackett do that last night in Seattle? I'm still trying to figure out what happened there. Yeah. What'd you see?
I think it's surprising. I know that he said, hey, we got into the range we wanted to with a 64-yard field goal. That's where we felt comfortable. I think I'm of the mind that when you go out and you get a Russell Wilson, I know it's 4th and 5, but in that scenario, when you look at the percentages, that's the thing. I think the team did look at the percentages. I think the team thought a 64-yard field goal is potentially a higher percentage play in this moment. But I just disagree when the player you're comparing it to is the quarterback that you just brought in to be your centerpiece, to make plays. I would not have taken it out of Russell Wilson's hands at that point. And frankly, I think it's a far more defensible position for Nathaniel Hackett afterward when he says, look, we went out and we got this guy to be our centerpiece. We're always going to lean on him. It's like, you know, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, they're going to have their ball. They're going to have the ball in their hands when it matters in the closing seconds. And if they miss a shot, guess what? They're going to get the opportunity again the next time that happens. Russell Wilson, to me, is that kind of a player. That's what you brought him in to be. And yeah, so I'm not a big fan of taking it out of his hands. And, you know, he's getting criticized right now, I think rightfully, and we'll see if he learns from it.
I want to get your sustainability polls. Who's leading the sustainability polls of surprising 1-0 teams, whether it's Chicago at 1-0, Minnesota at 1-0, the Cleveland Browns
right
at 1-0, Seattle. Like, is there anybody who's the Giants? Anybody you look at and say, wait a minute, ooh,
yeah,
I didn't have them really doing that well, but now look at them.
I would say this. First off, a thing that I think I'm now learning about game one since COVID is we went through COVID and all these teams stopped, just said effectively 95% of our starters we're really not going to play in the preseason. We're not going to put them out there. We'll practice, we'll have joint practices, but we're not going to worry about exposing guys in games to potential injury. I think we are seeing the effect. I'll put it to you this way. I believe week one less than ever before, because I think that I see a number of teams out here. I just don't believe what I'm seeing. I'm like, I'll give you an example. The Rams. I don't think the Rams are necessarily that team. The Bengals. I don't think Joe Burrow is necessarily that player in week one. I think it's because you have teams that are saying, we're not playing any of our guys. And if that means we go through week one kind of figuring out a little bit, maybe 2 weeks figuring out a little bit on Sundays, we'll deal with that. So I think you're seeing performances, subpar performances from some teams that I don't necessarily believe. Now, the flip side of that, in terms of sustainability, I like Minnesota. I think that I thought Minnesota was one of those teams where when I went through Minnesota's camp, I looked at what Kevin O'Connell wants to do there in terms of the play calling. He has a great roster, particularly offensively. Kirk Cousins, for as much as we beat up Kirk Cousins, he is someone who could be very, particularly in the regular season, very proficient passer. Justin Jefferson thinks he's the best wide receiver in the game. I think you're going to have a hard time denying that this season. And so when I looked at the Vikings going through, I thought, hey, this team's got a chance to be better maybe than people think. And for it to be real and tangible, what I thought was really fun to watch was Kevin O'Connell didn't show anything offensively in the preseason, nothing at all. And then as soon as we see him play against the Packers, you got, Jefferson going in motion. You have some of the play action stuff. I saw a lot of pieces of the Rams offense instantaneously. And what I thought in my mind was, that's the Kevin O'Connell that Sean McVay was upset to lose. That's the play caller. That's the guy who would have been the OC for the Rams this year, dialing everything up offensively. He's just doing it for Minnesota, and I thought he did it really well. I think what we saw from Minnesota against Green Bay was actually real. I think Minnesota's going to be a better team than maybe people thought.
Can't wait to see it. Charles, I can't wait to speak with you again. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk with you soon.
So happy to have the regular season started again. We are back. I'm so excited.
Me too. There's so much to talk about, man. And happy to have a one-on-one conversation too.
Yes, it's nice. It's an A to B conversation. It's nice every once in a while.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.